All right, everyone. I got messaged by several people on Twitter yesterday, and they were talking to me about this. A bunch of witches in New York City want to get together and curse Brett Kavanaugh for political reasons. I'd like to say something. It is impossible to be like a social justice warrior and be a true occultist. You can be a liberal occultist. Certainly, I think that most significant occultists, or most, I guess you'd say, real occultists, quote unquote, lean towards, I think, libertarianism. Not necessarily in the right-wing vein, but just generally leave me alone. It can be a very solitary thing, but when you get a group of people that can't fundamentally even accept the possibility that their lifestyle or their worldview could be partially wrong, they don't want to be challenged on any of their views, you can't practice the occult if you're doing that. If you're not willing to have your entire worldview challenged and question the nature of existence itself along with everything attendant to it, don't fucking tell me that you're a witch or something. That you can be like garden variety hedge Wiccan. You should go plant a garden. I know you're in New York City, so it might be hard, but you should go plant a community garden or something and do something beneficial instead of trying to hex Brett Kavanaugh with your little black candles and stuff. You already tried to do this to Trump several years running, and it's done nothing. Trump is more popular than he was at that point by a significant margin. You can say what you want about his historically low polls, which is bullshit. Look at the aggregate, not single polling. Don't cherry pick. That's what you did in 2016. You got to use logic and reason, by the way, too, in order to be an occultist. You have to be able to accept reality as it really is, not spiritual pipe dreams. I know that's a satanic statement. It is still part of the occult. You have to be able to understand sometimes things just aren't quite as you think they should be. Well, you can try to change that, but lighting a black candle, mumbling several sentences, and rambling about getting together in New York City and having an orgy to stop Brett Kavanaugh is not going to change anything. The only thing it's going to change is people's view of the left as kooky. Because you're the kooky side of the occult, so-called, that buys like the cheap $14 polyester robe and the little candle you get at Bed Bath & Beyond and fucking, desecrate it for some ritual purpose and call yourself a witch. Meanwhile, we're actually in the witch trials. We literally are back in the burning times. It's like being in Salem. And we have a situation where these same groups of social justice warriors are the witch finder generals of the era. They're not the witches. They're the ones doing the persecuting. And they'll be remembered for it. 20 years from now, it's going to be hilarious. I'll be getting gray and stuff, and I'll probably look more like a wizard at that point. And I'm going to look back, I'm going to laugh. I'm going to laugh at this entire fucking era. The last few years have been one non-stop fucking joke to me. And that's the other thing. If you want to be part of the occult, the absurdity of parts of reality can really hit you sometimes. You have to learn to laugh at it, to find existence itself kind of funny. These people have no sense of humor. Every form of humor offends them. That's what the social justice warriors are all about. This joke is sexist. That piece of satire is racist. This thing said 100 years ago by some fucking vaudeville comic or something, very, very offensive. You get offended at things that are literally antiquated to your grandparents' generation. You're trying to talk about how you're going to practice magic. It's never going to happen. 1,000 of you combined don't have as much occult force as I have in my fucking pinky finger. It's a fucking laugh. It's a joke. It's a complete farce. Yeah, have you ever even read like any occult works? I don't mean like, Wiccan Gardening 101 or feminism within modern or postmodern magic. Okay, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And I'm not trying to say Wicca is bad or something. I appreciate Wicca. I have no problem with it. But, I mean, come on. We're going to hex Kavanaugh. Seriously. Yeah, and Wiccan groups probably should come up and be like, these don't appear to be actual witches. These appear to be New Yorkers. There's a big difference. Maybe spiritually speaking. I've often said, I wrote a book on the subject, or I think a passage within one of my works, on the difference between rural versus urban styles of occultism, spirituality. There's a big difference when you can't see any stars in the night sky, when the moon is literally the only light in the night sky you can see that isn't artificial. If you're living in New York City or within 10 miles of it, certainly is the case. Even 10 miles away, you probably can't even see the northern star. I remember going through New York City on a Greyhound bus in the middle, and I'm like, is it nighttime? I can't tell. How do you sleep? Like, for an insomniac like me, between the noise down below and the fucking light, it'd be like, yeah, you better get blackout curtains. Better be some real thick walls there. and then your neighbors, and probably doing stupid shit, and gang, occasionally get a shooting or something. Just imagine how bad it would be in Chicago at this point. Jesus Christ. As a joke, somebody needs to take one of those white noise machines and replace the audio with a track that's like nonstop, a nonstop rotary bullet sounds, and then call it like the Chicago noise machine or something like that. I'm sure probably someone has already released that as a gag gift. The sounds of Detroit, 1 hour or something. No, this isn't witchcraft. This is just people mocking up. This is like Satanism. Makes sense to invoke Satanism a little bit. Satanism is atheism with a floor show. Well, you're talking about the need to hex somebody. You don't know them personally. You don't know anything about them that you weren't spoon-fed by a bunch of opportunistic corporate hacks. And then you're going to light your little candle and pretend to be hexing him by standing around in Central Park or something. That's not how the occult works. It's a mock-up. It's entertaining. I'm sure it gives you goosebumps. You're like, oh, it's almost Halloween. It's time to do a destruction ritual. Okay, that's fine. But don't try to overlap that with Hermes or something like that. It's not exactly the same as maybe the more real magic of the world. And then you see the proof is in the pudding. Look at the political landscape right now. Who is actually winning the culture war? The progressives claim up and down that they are. I see your entire corporate media complex that's all predominantly left-leaning and 100% corporate. Don't get me wrong, it's more about being corporatized and greedy. Fox, Breitbart, these groups are in there too. You have more in common with Fox than you do a left-wing alt-media commentator if you're a social justice warrior. I see them, despite their, collectively probably $100 billion a year budget, despite the fact that they've got, literally they get to rub elbows with every political structure in the world. They can meet with the Pope, they can meet with fucking some imam who has $1 billion in oil holdings. Despite all of that power, you're getting your ass kicked by a bunch of YouTubers. So the proof is in the pudding of where the gods are right now. Yeah, where Keck and all of these other, Nurgle and all these entities. Who is favored by the mighty Hercules? I'm going to assume that it's not, the corporate hack offices of CNN or Fox News over there in Manhattan. I think Fox is based in New York City, and supposedly it's like far left, but it's really just, financial center. That's where they have all their wealth, their gold hoard and stuff. They've been corrupted, and they're like totally insane. It's very funny to see. And meanwhile, their bidding is being done by a bunch of people who say like #resist, and they dye their hair red or pink and put on those like huge black frames without lenses in them, and then they talk about like heteronormativity and stuff like that. Or I don't know. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. It's like I already had to talk about this once with people trying to curse Trump, and I'm like, it's not going to work. It's a laugh. You're sort of disgracing the name occultist or witch anyway. I pointed that out at the time. I think that was 2 years ago. That was shortly after Trump got elected. And now it's happening again. I think this is probably the same group of people doing it all over. It didn't work. Their magic wasn't strong enough to stop Trump. Now the far left is trying to use Wicca or something to get Kavanaugh impeached. See how much it works. It won't work at all. That's about all. Peace out.